Hello everyone, good evening and welcome you all to Civil's Mentorship. So hope all your preparation are going as per your plan. Now we all know that how much important answer writing is for our mains preparation. Answer writing is one of the most important tasks that we need to master at. So when we are approaching the UPSC mains, especially the answer writing, we need to always keep one thing in mind. The examiner is assessing not just how much knowledge we possess, but also how clearly and correctly we express it. So that means our presentation. It's not that how much knowledge we have, but it is how we are presenting it. So every question in the exam comes with a directive word. So if you have gone through the previous year questions, so you will come across that every questions there is a directive word mentioned in the question, like define, describe, analyze, discuss, and so on. Now these aren't just fancy additions. They are actual instructions, like how during our school days our teacher used to give instructions like before an assignment. So similarly in UPSC mains also, if we miss the significance of keywords, even the best content may fetch us fewer marks. Let's think of this through cricket. Now, someone might be a talented batsman, but if that person ignores the field settings and play the wrong shot, the person may risk of getting caught out. So similarly in UPSC answer writing as well, if we don't follow the directives, we may lose marks regardless of how good content we. So today, let me walk you through the major directives that we will face in our papers, okay? With simple meanings and examples, so you never misinterpret them in the exam. So what are the directives that we will be going through? So if you have went through the previous year questions, you will come across these directives. So what are those? First is define. So what does this exactly means? Now what does define means? Now define is nothing but here UPSC wants a precise meaning. So how suppose in a particular question they have mentioned that define. So what should be your approach for that? Just give the concept in clear terms. If there are multiple interpretations, so you can mention the same as well, and it should be straight to the point. For example, if you see that one question came in 2018 that define mantle plume, okay, and explain its role in plate tectonics. So first of all, we will focus on this concept that define mantle plate. So what it is exactly? So how to approach this particular question? Now we can tell that what it is, and then we can mention its role in the plate tectonics. So over here, if a question is asking for define, no need to write a whole essay here. So we should be to the point in this particular keyword. Now next, so hope you understood that if a question is coming for define. Similarly, if you see the next another question was define blue revolution. So over here also we will be following the same approach only, where we will be writing about the blue revolution, about the particular concept. So next comes describe. So what does describe means? Now describe is nothing but it is a storytelling with logic. So over here we will explain that how and why something happened. For example, if you see a question came that describe the characteristics and types of primary rocks. So over here what they are asking? Now they are asking to describe the characteristics and types of primary rocks. So what shall be your answer? Means what should be your approach for this? So over we will go step by step. Like first of all we can say that what are primary rocks, what are the characteristics of it, and what are the types of it. So it should be a storytelling format but in a logical manner. So that the answer should be, so that answer can be replicated, that it is a complete answer. Now next comes discuss. So what does discuss means? Discuss is nothing but this is like a debate. Okay. So basically discuss. So it's an open-ended question. That if a question is that discuss, so that means it's an open-ended question where it should be like that. It's a debate in our head. Okay. And we will put that into paper. So how exactly it should be? Take an example of how the question is coming. For example, in 2021 only, a question came that discuss about the vulnerability of India to earthquake related hazards. That means what? That means they are asking us to discuss about what? Now discuss about the vulnerability of India to earthquake related hazards. So over here, the main focus is the vulnerability. That means they have clearly mentioned in the question that India is vulnerable to earthquake related hazards and they have asked you to discuss on it. So what should be your approach? Now the approach should be you need to write for and against, or else you can give the pros and cons and then we can conclude it. So at the starting of it, we can give an introduction, like we can give some data over here, or we can give some facts like IMDb or any other sort of things we can give, or any recent incident also we can give over here as a part of introduction. And then how we can proceed further? We can give the pros and cons, or we can give the for, or we can give for and against. So in this type of questions, examiner wants to, how means what is the what's the exact purpose of the examiner to give these type of questions? So examiner wants to see the balanced thought process, how our approach should be in a balanced manner. It should not be entirely for a particular topic, or neither it shouldn't be entirely a negative form against it. So every time we should be a balanced approach that we need to follow. So this is all about discuss. Next comes explain. So from the word only we can suggest that what does this means. Explain is, it's a slightly deeper than describe. Okay. So what was describe? Now describe means you are giving an introduction where you are writing any data or any recent incidents and all, and thereafter you are writing pros and cons, and thereafter either you are writing pros and cons or for and against, and you are concluding it. But explain is slightly more than that. How come? Now over here you are not only telling what, but also why and how, so that it will be a crystal clear to even a layman, so that even a layman can understand. For example, see, a question came that explain the purpose of the Green Grid initiative launched at the World Leaders Summit of the COP26 UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow in November 21. So basically what they are asking in this question, they are asking the purpose of it, that there was an initiative called Green Grid Initiative, and they are asking about the what was the purpose behind it. That particular initiative was launched at the World Leaders Summit of the COP26. So what was the purpose behind that particular initiative? So obviously over here, so that means there was some issues. To resolve that particular issue, this initiative was launched, or else it might be that this particular initiative was launched to rectify some issues or in order to resolve particular issue. So over here we can mention that what was the issue and how this particular initiative will solve this particular issue. So this is just an example that I am giving. Similarly, if you see, there was another question that explain the causes and effects of coastal erosion in India. So that means they are asking what? Now they are asking about the causes and effects of coastal erosion in India. So we can write in this particular question, suppose forget about the second part of the question. If the question was of 10 marker question that explain the causes and effects of coastal erosion in India. So what can be our approach? First of all, we can give some data as a part of introduction. We can give certain data in it, and then we can mention that what are the causes and what are the effects of coastal erosion in India. So this is all about the explain. So this does not means it's slightly it's almost similar to describe only, but it's slightly deeper. Now, in what perspective? If the question, if the keyword is explain, so over here we can tell that not only we need to explain about the what purpose, but we also need to explain the why and how also, so that everyone, a layman, can also understand this. Next comes elaborate. Now, from the term elaborate, what does the term elaborate means? Now, elaborate is nothing but to more detailed manner. So, for example, we can think of it is that we need to give it in a more detailed manner. So, that is what elaborate is. For example, a question came in 2019 that many voices had strengthened and enriched the nationalist movement during the Gandhian phase. Elaborate. So, what was the question? Now, many voices had strengthened. Many voices had strengthened and enriched the nationalist movement during the Gandhian phase. So, what they are asking us to do? They are asking us to elaborate on it. So, basically, elaborate is nothing but we need to give it in a more detailed manner. So, hope you understood the term elaborate or the keyword elaborate. Next comes illustrate. Illustrate means, what does illustrate means? So, illustrate is nothing but what does illustrate means? Illustrate is nothing but over here illustrate. That means we need to prove it based on certain examples or diagrams or statistics. So without these examples, it may be a diagram, it may be certain examples, it may be certain data related statistics also. So without these things, illustration is incomplete. So illustrate is basically, it is similar to explain only, but the only difference lies in the examples. How we are presenting our answer, that is where the difference lies. So in case of illustrate, if the keyword is illustrate, over there, ideally we should be giving certain examples. It may be some statistics, it may be some diagrams, or it may be certain sort of examples. The question, see the question over here. The question is, what are the basic principles of public life? So this is one question, one part of the question. But the main thing they are asking is illustrate any three of these with suitable examples. So that means, what was the question? Now, what are the basic principles of public life? So basic principles of public life we need to give. But how we need to give? Illustrate any three of this with suitable examples. So that means the principles that we are giving, that what are the basic principles of public life. For example, say that we are giving, there are 5 basic principles of public life. We need to illustrate out of those 5, we need to illustrate 3 of them with certain examples. So that is how illustration is. Illustration means we need to give examples of it. So that is what illustration means. See the next question. What was the next question? Now, what do you understand by moral integrity and professional efficiency in the context to corporate governance in India? But we need to substantiate our answer with what? Now, illustrate with suitable examples. So, I hope you understood the what does illustrate means. So, illustrate is nothing but we need, it's almost similar to explain only, but the only difference lies over here is that we need to give examples or data or statistics in case of illustrate. Now, next comes demonstrate. So, what does demonstrate means? So, what is demonstrate? Now, demonstrate is nothing but same thing as illustrate only, that a particular thing, how a particular thing is working, in order to prove that you need to give certain examples. That's it. So, as of now, with this keyword, we did not encounter any question in last 10 to 12 years. with this particular keyword. But it's better to know these things as well. We don't know, it might be that in coming years this particular keyword UPSC will ask questions from this particular keyword. So what is a demonstrate means? Demonstrate and illustrate both are same thing only. In illustrate, we are giving certain examples or diagrams or statistics to prove something. Similarly, demonstrate also. Concept is same, that with the base of certain examples or certain data or certain statistics, we are over here to prove something. Understood? Okay. Now next thing. What is next? The next is analyze. Now here comes the critical part. What is analyze? The analyze is, suppose a particular issue is there. Let's take the example of a question. Let's take the understand this with an example. Say for example, the question was, analyze the salience of sect in Indian society vis-a-vis caste, region and religion. Okay. So the question was, analyze the salience of sect in Indian society vis-a-vis what? Na caste, region and religion. So that means we are comparing it. So analyze, the question is, the keyword is analyze over here. So if the keyword is analyze, our first task will be to break the issue into smaller parts. And then we can go deeper into each of those smaller parts, and then we can again connect them back. That means over here, what was the question? Analyze the salience of sect in Indian society vis-a-vis caste, region and religion. So over here, we will break down this particular question into multiple smaller parts, and then we will go deeper into those questions. And then again at the end, we will conclude by connecting all of them. So that's how over here in this type of questions, we can in this way we can approach this type of questions. So in these type of questions where the keyword analyze is given, so what if you think from the examiner's perspective, they want us or they want to check our critical thinking in this type of questions. So that's why they have given this analyze as the critical word or as the keyword in these type of questions. So hope you understand. So in case of analyze, we are just breaking the issue into smaller parts and then we are connecting them back. And we are going deep into each of those smaller topics. And then we, as a part of conclusion, we are connecting all of them into one to conclude my answer. So next is assess. Assess means what? Assess means importance, weighing the importance. So that means you are weighing certain, suppose for example, we'll understand based on a certain example. Take for this as an example. Assess the importance. Assess the importance of the accounts of the Chinese and Arab travelers in the reconstruction of the history of India. That means they are talking about the reconstruction of the history of India. That is the broader topic. But what specifically they are asking for? They are asking for the how in the reconstruction of the history of India, how much important was the contribution of Chinese and Arab travelers? That is their main demand that is the main demand of this particular question. On a broader topic, they are asking for the reconstruction. They are saying about the reconstruction of the history of India. And within that, they are asking that how much important was the Chinese and Arab travelers in the reconstruction of the history of India. So what does assess means? Assess means weighing the importance. So in this particular question, assess the importance of the accounts of the Chinese and Arab travelers. So in this question, in which part of the question we will focus more on? The importance of the accounts of the Chinese and Arab travelers. So in that part, in this part of in this entire question, this part we will focus more on. So it's like a judge, okay? You decide, but you must tell why and also mention the counterpoints before we can conclude. Say, for example, in this question only, we are saying they have already mentioned that assess the importance. So that means the Chinese and Arab travelers played a very important role in the reconstruction of the history of India. Next question comes, how? Why? So we need to answer this type in this way, that assess means they have already mentioned that the Chinese and Arab travelers played an important role in the reconstruction of the history of India. But they are asking from us how, why, and how they have played an important role, or why they have played an important role. So in this way, we need to answer this type of question. Next comes compare. So from the word only we can understand that what type of question can come from this, but with this keyword. Means compare means what? We are bringing the similarities as well as the differences. Both we will be comparing. Okay. For example, let's see a question. See, the question was, discuss India as a secular state and compare with the secular principles of the US Constitution. So if we ignore the first part, that is discuss India as a secular state for the time being, what is the second part of the question? Now compare with the secular principles of the US Constitution. That means we need to compare the US Constitution, the secular principles of the US Constitution with Indian Constitution. So over here, since they have mentioned compare, in this case, we need to mention the similarities as well as the differences. It's not that we will compare or we will tell only the similarities or only the differences in this case. No. In this case, since they have mentioned compare, so in this case, we will mention both the similarities as well as the differences. Now next comes, the next keyword is contrast. So what is the basic difference between contrast and compare? So previously we have understood the keyword compare. So what was compare? Now compare was we are providing both the similarities and the differences. But in contrast also we will be providing similarities and differences, but our main focus will be on the differences between the two. That is the difference between the keyword compare and contrast. Say for example, the question was, compare and contrast the British and the Indian approaches to parliamentary sovereignty. See, the question they have given compare and contrast. So that means from British and Indian approaches to the parliamentary sovereignty. This is the theme, that the parliamentary sovereignty, we need to, so what is the demand of the question? Now the topic is parliamentary sovereignty and we need to compare as well as contrast. That means we need to provide the we need to give the similarities between Indian and the British approaches to parliamentary sovereignty, and along with that we need to give the differences between them as well. So basically contrast is nothing but the differences. So in the next question we will understand it in a more better way. See, what is the next question? Now describe the benefits of deriving electric energy from sunlight. Okay, so for the time being we will ignore the first part. What is the second part? In contrast to, that means in contrast to what? Deriving electric energy from sunlight in contrast to the conventional energy generation. So this is how the term contrast can be used in a particular question, where in this particular question what they have said, now we are deriving electrical energy from sunlight, okay, and there are conventional energy generations as well. So now they are asking that what are the benefits of deriving electrical energy from sunlight in contrast to the conventional energy generation. So how can we approach this particular question? Now, in the beginning, we can say that what are the disadvantages of conventional energy generations, or what are the issues with conventional energy generation, and then how those issues can be resolved by deriving electric energy from sunlight. This is one method, and vice versa is also true. Like in a tabular form also, we can give the comparison between deriving electrical energy from sunlight and the conventional energy generation. So these are the two ways by which you can use this. These are the two formats, or these are the two ways by which we can proceed with this particular question. Hope you understood this part as well. Now next comes examine critically. What does this means? Now examine critically. So examine critically means what? Examine critically. Both the terms they have mentioned over here. So that means over here we need to deep dive into the question. We need to provide certain data. We need to provide the issues. We need to then critically tell which parts really matter. For example, let's check this question. Examine critically what? Now, the various facets of economic policies of the British in India from mid-18th century till independence. So, what is the question? Now, examine critically, but what? What we need to examine? The various facets of economic policies of the British in India from mid-18th century till independence. So, over here, how we can proceed with this particular question? Now, we need to give the facts that what are the economic policies of the British that they have, or what are the economic policies of the British during that time period from mid-18th century till independence. How it had benefited Indian people, or what were the impact of those economic policies. So those things we need to mention in this question. So this is what examine critically is. Next comes comment upon. So the UPSC is asking to comment. That means they are asking for our opinion in this particular keyword. So it's not that they are asking for someone else's opinion. They are asking for our opinion in these type of questions. So over here UPSC wants our opinion. Obviously that particular opinion should be backed by logic, examples and evidence. So we need to provide, or we need to follow a balanced approach. Either we can stand for a particular thing, but whatever approach that we will be following, it should be backed by logic, examples and evidence. Say for example, a case study came. Okay. So in that case study, what is the question that they have asked? The question is, in the light of the above case, comment upon the ethical issues that may arise due to the politicization of bureaucracy. So that means in this particular case study, they are asking us to comment upon what are the ethical issues that may arise due to the politicization of bureaucracy. So that means they are asking for our point of view. So over here we need to give our point of view based on the logics and explanations, evidences, all those things. So this is all about comment upon. Next comes give an account of. So give an account of means what? Now give an account of means it's a straightforward description in detail without too much analysis. So this particular keyword, I have observed that it came in certain history optionals questions, okay. But this keyword has not been used in last 10 to 12 years in our GS papers. So over here simply they have asked for give an account of. That means we need to describe the topic in detail without too much analysis. Next keyword comes to what extent. Now what does this mean? To what extent? So that means measure the truth, whether it is half true, partly true, largely true, or show alternatives and then give our position. Now what does this mean? Let's take an example. For example, see in 2022 a question came. To what extent, in your opinion? So that means, in our opinion, they have asked for. As the decentralization of power in India changed the governance landscape at the grassroots. So, what is the question? To what extent? That means, in our opinion, to what extent has the decentralization of power in India changed the governance landscape at the grassroots? So, how can we approach this particular question? Now, over here at the beginning, we can give certain data that, okay, so the decentralization of power has given certain, has changed the governance landscape at the grassroots level. So, after providing certain data, we can give that, how means the benefits, or we can give the pros and cons approach also we can use in this particular question. So this is how, to what extent, that means, is it entirely true that decentralization of power in India has changed the governance landscape at the grassroots? So is it entirely true, or it is half true, or it is partly true? So like this we need to approach this particular question. Next comes critically evaluate. What does this means? What does this keyword means? Now, critically evaluate. Critically evaluate is a higher version of assess. So in the previous keyword, that assess keyword, what we did, now in that assess keyword, what we did, now in the assess keyword, based on the weightage of the importance, we have decided. Like for example, the question was, assess the importance of the accounts of the Chinese and Arab travelers in the reconstruction of the history of India. So that means, in the reconstruction of history of India, what was the importance of the Chinese and Arab travelers? So that is assess. Now comes critically evaluate. So critically evaluate is nothing but the higher version of assess. So over here, we will check the strength, we will check the weaknesses, we will present both sides of the argument, and then clearly we will state our judgment. Let's take an example. So what was the question that came in 2015? Now, considering the threats of cyberspace poses for the country, India needs a digital armed force to prevent crimes. Okay, this is the statement that UPSC has given. But what are they asking for? Critically evaluate the National Cyber Security Policy 2013, outlining the challenges perceived in its effective implementation. So what does this question means? So initially the statement that they have given is, considering the threats cyberspace poses for the country. That means they have mentioned that cyberspace is a threat to the country. India needs what? Now, a digital armed force to prevent crimes. Now, in order to retaliate that, India needs a digital armed force. Okay. But what they are asking now? Critically evaluate what? Now, the National Cyber Security Policy 2013, outlining the challenges perceived in its effective implementation. So, basically what they are asking is, we need to analyze the National Cyber Security Policy 2013. Why was it brought up? What are the advantages? What are the challenges in the implementation of the policy? That is what they are asking for. And how we can improve that policy. What will be our recommendations? So these things they are asking for in this particular question. That in the National Cyber Security Policy 2013, what are the challenges perceived in its effective implementation? That means obviously there would be certain challenges, but it's not that it did not have any good impact on the cyber security space. So we need to provide that as that aspect as well, that we need to provide a balanced approach in our answer. What is the good approach? Means what are the impacts that this particular cyber security policy 2013 has? And then what are the challenges it is facing? What can be done? That is other recommendations. And finally, we will be concluding it. So this is all about critically evaluate. Next comes, and the final one is critically analyze. So if you see previous year questions, out of all these keywords, most number of questions comes from this particular keyword, critically analyze. So what does this means? Critically analyze is, now in critically, so this is the hierarchy. First of all, it is assess. Assess is we are deep diving into the topic. Next comes critically evaluate. We are further deep diving into the topic. Finally comes critically analyze. That means we are digging it more deeper. That means we are breaking the topic into multiple parts, we are examining it, and then we are judging its value or impact. So as I mentioned that this is one of UPSC's favorite directives because out of all these directives, most number of questions came from this particular directive. So let's take an example. What was the question? Now, critically analyze the proposition that there is a high correlation between India's cultural diversities and the socio-economic marginalities. So in this question, how can we approach that? So first of all, we can provide the definitions of these things. And secondly, we can provide the correlation. That means the relationship between these things. And finally, we can say that, or we can give those details as well in which they are not correlated to each other. So because then my answer will be in a balanced approach. So we have given everything, like first of all, we have given it in a definition manner. And secondly, they have mentioned that there is a high correlation. They have already given. There is no way we can deny this fact because they themselves had given this point that there is a high correlation between India's cultural diversities and socio-economic marginalities. So that means we will provide the correlationship between them, and finally just we will give a touch of how they are different, that is how they are not correlated to each other, and then we can conclude it. So this is about critically analyze. So hope you understood all these 17 keywords. If you go through the previous year questions, 90% of the questions will be based on these keywords only. But why these keywords matters? So why I am stressing this so much? Now in the mains exam, what sets apart a 300 rank candidate from an 80 rank candidate is often not knowledge, but the way you present it. Because see, once you have cleared prelims, that means whosoever has cleared prelims, that means knowledge wise, 90% of them will have the similar knowledge only. But the only difference lies in how you are presenting your answer. That is where the difference lies. Now, if a question says discuss and you simply describe it, now you are meeting just half of the requirement. So if you just imagine that if you do these kind of mistakes, then you can lose 2 to 3 marks per answer. Now imagine you have 20 questions. From each questions, suppose for example, out of 20 questions, for 5 questions you have made this mistake. Or for example, you don't know the answer, so because of which you made this mistake. So that means 5 questions, 2 to 3 marks gone in this simple thing only. So that means one paper, 15 marks gone. So that means now you imagine if you do the same mistake in 4 papers, that means 60 marks gone. Now 60 marks is it can make or break for it. So that means this for 60 marks, this 60 marks can be the difference between clearing or missing the final list. So that's why I am saying that focus on these keywords as well. So going forward, so the golden rule is that whenever you are, so golden rule is nothing but it's simple. So going forward, whenever you are practicing any PYQ or any mock tests you are giving, just underline the directive word first, so that you will get an idea that what can be your approach towards the question. It's not that you will learn this technique or you will learn this approach in one day. So if you regularly practice it, now before your mains exam, you will master this one. So what I would suggest you, whenever you are attempting previous year questions or any mock papers, just underline the directive word first. Now that word will give you the roadmap for your answer. And trust me, when you give the examiner what they are looking for, when you make the examiner's job easy, your answers naturally stand out and your marks go up. So, next time when you write a mock or a previous year paper, focus on directives as much as you focus on content. Because mostly we are focusing on the contents only, but we are missing out this important part, that is directives. So, if I would suggest that follow this approach, and next time onwards, you will write answers like a topper. So, till then, thank you.